Everyone, welcome to our August meeting for Thames River Conservation Authority Board of Directors. Noting the starting time is 9:37. Our meeting was delayed. Start of our meeting was delayed slightly due to an enlightening presentation by Scott Gillingwater, updating us on the status of our spiny softshell turtle program. So we'll touch on that a little bit later. As a reminder, Amy Mbako is serving as our meeting host. So, those of you online have connection problems or issues with the technology, please contact Amy through the chat feature. Today's meeting is being live streamed on the UTRCA's YouTube channel. Please refrain from whispers or side conversations while the meeting is running, as they could get picked up by the microphones. When the squares glow red, the microphones are muted. If you're a board member attending online, please have your camera on during the meeting, especially during voting and during closed session when applicable. We have received regrets from Gene Coles, Jim Craigwell. Online with us today, we have Hugh McDermott, Scotty Zaire, Peter Cuddy was online there earlier. Welcome. And I will read our territorial acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the Upper Thames River watershed is within the traditional territory of the Attawandaron, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Nuna-Piwak peoples, who have deep, long-standing intrinsic relationships to the land, water, plants, and animals of southwestern Ontario. We acknowledge the First Nation communities within the Thames River watershed who are connected to and by the Thames River. These nations include Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, Munsee Delaware Nation, and Delaware Nation at Moraviantown. In the region, there are 11 First Nation communities and a growing and diverse Indigenous urban population. We acknowledge and respect local and regional First Nations as original, contemporary, and future caretakers of this watershed. And we are committed to working alongside Indigenous peoples from across the region and Turtle Island to strengthen relationships, honor treaty rights, and improve watershed health. At this time, I'll ask if there are any modifications to the agenda. I believe that closed session, item 7, reports in camera, that is to be deleted until future meeting. Other than that, I'm not aware of any other changes to the agenda. Brian, go ahead, please.
Let's make a motion to approve the agenda as adopted or as amended.
Okay, so moved by Brian, second by Skylar. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, it's carried. Okay, item 3. I'll ask if anyone has any pecuniary interest to declare. Seeing none, if the need arises at any time throughout the rest of the meeting, please advise the chair accordingly. Item 4, presentations, delegations, we have none. So we'll move to item 5, administrative business. 5.1, approval of the minutes of the previous meeting of June 24th, 2025. Recommendation that the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority Board of Directors approve the Board of Directors minutes, including any closed session minutes dated June 24th, 2025. Moved by Mark, by George. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed, if any, it's carried. Thank you. All right. 5.2, any business arising from the minutes? There's none from the chair, noted beforehand. So we'll move to item 5.3, correspondence. Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks. Recommendation that the Board of Directors receives the correspondence for information. Sandy, seconder. Scotty, any discussion?
No.
Sandy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff, I understand the wording that MECPs, taking over, so to speak, or the responsibility, but that the Ministry of Natural Resources retains leadership for natural hazard management policy. I get that, and operations. That piece I'm puzzled by. Does it have any kind of effects on the work that we do, or would staff do work? You to staff?
Yes, I can respond to the chair. It's our understanding, things, operational matters like the water and road control infrastructure funding still remains with Ministry of Natural Resources. As well as our section 39 reporting, those requirements for natural hazard management. So those type of operational matters is, I believe, what they're referring to in the correspondence.
Okay, so it sounds like it's not disruptive whatsoever.
Not disruptive.
Good here.
Yeah. Separating our responsibilities into two different ministries.
Any other questions or discussions on that correspondence? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you. One other note I want to add under correspondence, I'll read it aloud. It wasn't inserted into the agenda, but we did. I received an email from Nicholas Vink, repair in West Perth. He had the following comments, and I pass this along to staff as well for their information. Good afternoon. I wanted to take a moment to express my appreciation for both the reduced tillage cover crop and phosphorus program, as well as the excellent work by your team at Upper Thames. For me, this is the second year I've applied, and this program has been running straightforward, efficient, and effective. From receiving the application notice to completing a simple online form to getting feedback and approval within a week, the entire process was seamless. I wish all government ag programs operated with this level of clarity and efficiency. Beyond the smooth administration, the environmental benefits of the program are also commendable. Thank you for your efforts in making this such a positive experience, Nicholas. So we thank Nicholas's comments and feedback on the program, and I guess compliments are in order to our staff, Tatiana and her group, for operating this program and delivering some excellent customer service. So thank you. I don't know, Tracy, if you had anything else to add to that, or
Sure, through the chair. I would just say, I think Tatiana and her team have received lots of similar type of emails back from people participating in the program. Very complimentary of how quickly the process is flowing and the work that's actually being done in the watershed. So Tatiana, wasn't sure if you want to mention anything.
Through the chair, I would just like to shout out Christopher Nesbrook and Karen Smith, because those two are making this whole process for the phosphorus reduction program as seamless as landowners are finding it.
excellent. Thanks, Tatiana. And again, thanks to your staff for putting in the time and the effort to make the program a success to date. We appreciate it. All right. Do we need a mover and seconder to receive that, or just carry on? Carry on. Okay. All right. Item 6, reports for consideration. 6.1 is the RTOR and Lake Victoria drawdown reports from Chris Tasker, our manager of water and information management. Chris, did you want to lead off?
To get a fairly comprehensive report, I don't think I need to go through the report in detail, but I'm definitely open to taking questions on it. One thing I would probably add, just as a current status, we're still about 0.3, a little bit more than 0.3 meters below the sill, the weir elevation. So we've come a long way since we started filling it back up again, but we've got about a foot or 4.3 meters to go.
Okay, thanks, Chris. And yeah, we do recognize the importance of Lake Victoria to the city of Stratford and the desire to host the Dragon Boat Festival in the city rather than having to pursue an alternative location at Wildwood Conservation Area. Again, thanks to Chris and the staff for dealing with the very challenging situation. Again, it's a lot of things happen behind the scenes that not everyone's privy to, so we appreciate your diligence and effort in that situation. Tracy, did you have some notes to add as well?
Yes, thank you through the chair, and I, I don't want this to be overlooked, but certainly if it isn't evident, the amount of extra effort taken from Chris and the number of teams that were deployed to assist in really mucky and very hot conditions at the time. Staff from a number of units jumped in to assist in every way that they can, from our water management staff, our dam engine, our dam mechanics, Ian and Jason being out doing operations regularly. We had Aaron, Carol, Scott, recovery efforts to relocate over 1,000 mussel species and make sure that any turtle species were staying where they should. Land staff to help with the blockage removal, from Brandon and Cole being out there, as well as Mike to assist. I really again applaud the work of our communications team as well through all of this. Eleanor and Emily took the lead. I'm sure Amy helped backfill other things that required attention while they were providing all the messaging out to make sure everyone was informed and up to date. So there's lots of media requests on this topic because we do recognize how important this is to the community. And as an outcome, I think having lots of discussions with city staff as well, recognizing the importance of the Avon River and the lake through Stratford, and that it's something that maybe have been overlooked a little bit in the past, and drawing some more attention to how valuable an asset that is to the city has been really important. We've also been working with the various provincial ministries for certain approvals. If there's any water taking to be achieved through using an upstream aggregate resource operation to add more water to the system. And again, some very positive from the NCP staff and how much they appreciated staff assistance and technical data, water quality information, fisheries habitat information to help inform their decision. Anyway, still more to come, still some more work in progress, but as Chris said, we're getting closer to those summer levels again, which we're happy to see.
Okay, thanks, Tracy. I'll read the recommendation first and then open the floor to questions and comments. So the recommendation for this report is that the board of directors receive this report for information and direct staff to implement the items identified in the next steps section of this report. Seconder, please. Moved by Purge, second by Paul. Okay, open the floor to discussion or questions. Paul, go ahead.
Chris, to say this was a comprehensive report was a big understatement. I would trust you. You told us how this normally operates, what happened leading up to the event, what happened to deal with the event, what the situation is now, and a variety of options to hopefully prevent this from happening again. So my question is, and Tracy alluded to the extra work and effort that's gone into dealing with this over the last month. Obviously, when there's extra work and effort, there's extra costs involved. Who's going to pay the bill? Is it Upper Thames cost or City of Stratford, or a combination of the two?
So the costs that are attributed to any operation of our Thomas Orr Dam are funded through municipal levy. So that sort of sets the context of this. But in the middle of a budget year, those costs will be assigned to the structure. Anything that is greater than the revenues that were levied for that particular year would be taken from, I guess, I don't know what the correct accounting terms are, the specific reserve for our Thomas Orr Dam. And, we would have to consider, based on upcoming work and all that sort of thing, what amounts to levy in the future, to keep that reserve at an appropriate level, given the pressures that are on it.
Ultimately, the city of Stratford,
Every,
adjustment to levy.
every cent that we pay in operating the dam is funded through municipal. We don't have another source of funding for that. The only other source of funding is for major maintenance, and we're eligible for that structure to get WECI, which helps offset those costs, which would otherwise be borne by the municipal levy as well.
Thanks, Chris.
Harsh, go ahead, please.
Yeah, first I want to thank, Upper Thames and the city of Stratford. They were great to get this issue resolved and kind of, the resolution kind of going forward. The phone was pretty busy, in the beginning of the month for that. And, one of the pieces that a lot of the feedback and a lot of questions that are asked are, did this happen? And then there's some sort of a data loss and kind of going forward, like putting a plan together, kind of a redundancy going forward. If we did have this type of a situation, there is a plan or what we could put in place, if this doesn't happen going forward. As I mentioned, the river is a kind of a highlight for Stratford, and a lot of activities happen through it for the summer, from the dragon boats and just local businesses and tourism, and many more. So that's where, a lot of the feedback that I got from the local residents is, how do we, what is the solution kind of going forward? Because there's some sort of, my understanding, some sort of a system or power outage that caused, something for data loss or something. I'm in IT, so I look at everything as when a system goes back, if we lose power, we have, UPS is back up, so systems don't fail. And we have redundant systems that kind of pass on to another system. Is there something like that we can look at or in place, or it's?
So I think what you're talking about is completely separate and distinct from the incident that happened. The incident that happened, as it's described, was the automatic operations did what it was supposed to do, but when closed, there was something under the gate. Successive attempts to remove that were not successful. So that's separate and distinct. One of the items that we have in our projects planned in the future would be emergency backup power for the dam. Currently, should the automatic operations fail, not be able to be operated, such as in the event of a power failure, manual operations would be necessary. There is a backup gas generator, backup gas motor that can power the gates, but it would require fairly quick response from the local operators by the city to hook that up. It's a fairly intensive process, and backup power is something that has been discussed and planned and is in the future project list.
All up? No. Okay. Any other questions? Sandy, go ahead, please.
Thank you, through the chair. So current situation is it in terms of debris interrupting or affecting the operation of the dam? Has everything that needs to be cleared been cleared, or is there more work to do?
Debris is going to be an ongoing thing. It's constantly being delivered to the system. Well manicured park, lots of beautiful trees, overhanging water, it drops branches. Upper ends, the water flows in it, brings debris with it. That's going to be an ongoing challenge. And the report suggests a couple options that could be considered, stepping up efforts to try and reduce the amount of debris that's delivered to the dam, and be able to collect what is delivered to the dam before it settles in front of the gates. That being said, I don't think there's ever going to be a completely 100% effective solution to doing that. I think I made some remarks in the report about picking up every single twig that falls water is probably not a reasonable expectation. Reasonable levels to try and reduce that debris loading, and to try and manage it better are probably appropriate. But, you know, not going to 100% certainty eliminate it completely. And I think the same is true for most of, if not all of the options that we're pursuing. So it's a case of weighing the relative benefits with relative costs, not just the capital costs, but the operational costs and the considerations there.
Mr. Chair, that kind of leads to my next question is, I'm assuming part of these next steps are discussions with the municipality. And going forward, we'll see some recommendations coming back or some sort of direction from this board in order to implement whatever comes back from those discussions in terms of where you're going to go. Because there's lots of options, but I take it nothing's been agreed to. And it needs the cooperation of the municipality with the authority. And we'll hear that at a future meeting. Is that yes or no would be enough to answer?
Yeah, I think that is fair, and I appreciate that the comments about working with the city. I think that's an important step. It's a matter of balancing those costs and benefits, and they're the ones that realize the benefits, the recreational amenities, and all that sort of things. Ultimately,
Yeah.
the dollars that spent.
Yeah, unfortunately, as weather seems to get weirder, you know, what we plan for is, it'll be interesting how that plays out. So look forward to future reports. And the last piece I have, a question about, Mr. Chair, is my understanding correct that water taking permits are exclusively a provincial deal? We don't have any say one way or another on.
And I feel through the chair, Mark Helston's in the room too, so he can jump in, but he's certainly our reviewer that reviews permit to take water applications and provides information to the province for their decision making. So certainly it is the provincial directive in how they choose to approve.
Okay. We have no sign off on it.
We do.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other further questions or discussion? You, Scotty, Peter, anything? Okay, if not, we had a mover and Paul, seconder and Marge. And the recommendation, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, moving up to item 6.2. 2026 preliminary draft budget. I will turn the floor to Tracy first to I guess launch our discussion. It's providing an overview presentation. At our last meeting, there was a request from the City of London to reduce City of London's budget. Mayor Morgan had requested that we do what we can. And you will see in the upcoming presentation that staff have worked to reduce the request of London, and the report identifies that those efforts are continuing. So I will turn the floor over to Tracy to lead the presentation.
And certainly I'm presenting the information, but all the managers provided a lot of background to get their budget numbers into our Questica program, and huge efforts by Christine to pull it all together, make it make sense. We're already seeing the benefits of using Questica as software as well. This is our third year with it. Our first year was kind of more of the training side of it. But having those past years in our budget software is making the development of our budgets now easier. Still a hard task, but more simple, and allow us to present a lot more detail this early in the year. Whereas something that's at least with the numbers side of things, refined wouldn't have been seen until much later. Next slide. Kind of covering the preliminary discussion topics, reminding everyone that this is a preliminary discussion. We anticipate that budget figures will change over time and be refined over the coming months. What we presented is a balanced budget for category 1 programs, slight bit of a surplus, but generally balanced. And it also includes those increases to municipal share of our mandatory programs and services. And that is derived from what the province provides us for modified current value assessment. And we did receive those numbers in June. So the 2026 values. Some of the key considerations next slide for developing our budget is really those legislative requirements. Of course, we want to fill our requirements under the Conservation Abilities Act and the associated regulations. We want to align our governance and policies to adhere to our budget, our board-approved budgetary and reserves policies. Having that document to guide how we create budgets has been incredibly helpful as well. What we've heard, certainly we've heard from some municipalities about the various pressures that everyone is experiencing. What we've heard from staff, from you as members in the past few meetings, and other interest holders, knowing where we should be setting our sights as we have our draft strategic plan development underway, including some of that as well. Of course, compensation adjustments, cost of living, we step progressions through the staff of the organization. Looking at our inflationary trends, also reflected in the consumer price index and actual purchasing experiences. We recognize some of the issues with trade, contracting, some of our engineering costs and supplies. We tried to update those costs as well, recognizing the trends that we've been seeing. Next slide. Also, we have a number of contractual obligations that are included, multi-year agreements, phosphorus program that was just mentioned. Certainly, also looking at how our timing and allocation of spending is within those multi-year agreements. We have operational pressures, capital demands and program demands. Asset management, for example, is a huge part of how we're looking at and planning for those pressures moving forward. We're anticipating that the freeze-free directive will continue. That's that minister's direction to freeze fees for planning and development permitting. But yet trying to shift to that efficiency focus, internal efficiencies through technology and cost control, trying to capture some of that. There's the streamlining initiative currently in progress, but ultimately ensuring that we're looking also at service delivery and how our budget decisions can ultimately affect that service delivery moving forward. That's how we went about considering the draft budget that's included in the package before you. As we have the last few years, we've separated out our category 1, category 2, category 3, and other category 3 programs. Category 1 is usually what most people are most interested in from the municipal realm, because that is the mandatory programs and services. It's projected to produce a surplus of 122,000 this draft, resulting in about 99,000 of gains in the long-term investment portfolio. Again, we look to our budgetary and reserve policies, and those gains should be segregated into those investment reserves. We've been depleting our reserves the last number of years, so trying to focus on slowly building that up. Our category 2 programs and services are generally balanced, slight surplus in some areas, but that was always planned to be used in subsequent years through those multi-year budgets. Our category 3 programs are showing a deficit of 236,000, just the straight category 3 programs, whereas our other category 3 programs, which are capital improvements for our campgrounds and campground operations in those facilities, any gains and surpluses will be used to offset some aging infrastructure needs. Next slide. On the capital side, so what's included? Kind of stability in delivering our mandatory programs at the current service level. That was the real push the last couple of years, is to bring us up to what's needed. Certainly seeing some changes with how we deliver programs now, and having that stability has been very helpful and allowing us to have a little bit of a surplus right now. We do still recognize we'll have some unexpected project costs. We've planned for some staffing changes due to some leaves and upcoming retirements, having a little bit of overlap there. Making sure that our wage costs remain competitive so that we can continue to attract the staffing that we need with the skills and experience needed for those positions. Also looking more broadly at our multi-year contracts, clean water agency funding is included. And then also anticipating some reductions in other federal funding. With the most recent mandate letters by Minister Carney, there is some shifts anticipated, at least, that we'll see some further reduction in some other programs. So next slide here, we looked at other potential revenues and cost savings, recognizing what their source of revenue was, where the impact would be and potential risks. And of course, we highlighted the fees revenues. If we were to change to align with the 50% recovery and policy, which is in our current policy, we would need to add between $550,000 to $600,000 of fees to align with that policy. But we also recognize that the freeze fees is unlikely to be lifted. And we'd also require some additional consultation prior to implementing any fees changes. So we've assumed the same level of planning and permitting activity as well that we estimated for 2025 to carry through to 2026. And all of that is subject to change. With category 1 corporate allocated costs, we have, you see there, over 1,230,000 approximately costs that are offset from our category 3 contracts. And we utilize an allocation system. So those overheads, our category 3 programs also assist to cover those costs. We do recognize the risk of that because our contracts are not necessarily predictable year to year, and both changes in government provincially and federally could impact those contracts. With land sales, there is a potential revenue still unknown. The timing specific of when sales might happen might be unknown as well. And that's one-time funding. It shifts the levy need beyond the current year into future years. We feel that using income from sales for operational needs versus having specified reserves for purchases of other lands or other capital and opportunities to build reserves and investment is more desirable from a staffing point of view, from a staffing recommendation. And then we looked at some alternative compensation increases from staff, changing it from a 2.75% increase to the wage grid to 3%. It would only reduce $40,000 from levy sources. We do run the risk of not being able to have and be competitive to attract and retaining our staff over the long term. And certainly we've seen a shift in the spread between average wages and inflation, reducing to 19% in the last 2 years. Christine certainly delved into that for us. Next slide. From the capital side of things and our capital budget included in the package, there's considerable work to maintain our aging infrastructure. We recognize too that our project capital costs can vary by project, and it really varies on how it will impact the benefiting municipalities, not only by the scope of the project, but also the timing of the projects and when those projects begin and carry over, if they carry into various years or plan to be done in a single year. We always try to apply for alternative funding sources. Chris just mentioned the WICI program to offset those capital costs to our member municipalities. More information on our capital projects will be included in the next version of the draft budget at the October presentation, as those project lists and further timing of projects are still being worked on and having discussions with our member municipalities where they're affected. Next slide, please. Again, just to highlight discussion as well. Our preliminary draft includes an average of 6.7% based on the modified current value assessment for levy increases. a decrease in the benefit-based levies of just over 35%. Again, it's more based on those capital projects and which municipalities are undertaking projects in a given year and not necessarily tied to the operations of those structures. Our category 3 municipal cost apportion agreements, we had a plan to apply a 4.3% increase to that specific program. Recognizing that with the municipal apportionment of the category 3 programs, we're able to leverage those dollars 12 times to provide a much more enhanced programs to our watershed residents. So that's a significant leverage that we're able to do with the amounts that we get through grants and other programs. So our next steps, of course, the budget schedule. We started working on this back in March to predict budget needs. We had some board direction in May of concepts. This is in August, where this is the preliminary, seeking some board direction. And then we'll follow up with additional municipal input sessions with the senior staff. October, we'll present a draft budget. And then after the October time period, November through February, having municipal input sessions and with senior staff, going out to councils to do presentations as well. The full circulation to our member municipalities. In January, we'll review any comments received and then reconsider any amendments needed. And in February, presenting the draft and the budget apportionment in the gym. So the recommendation is just that the board receives the 2026 preliminary draft budget and direct staff to prepare the 2026 draft. With that, happy to answer any questions, and all the managers and Christine were instrumental in putting together some of these numbers. So between us, we can answer those questions.
Okay, thanks, Tracy. Brian.
A couple questions. The first one through you, Chair, is that it varies, I guess, between different sections, but really, what kind of percentage are we looking at now as we're expecting areas where things could change, the unknown areas? And I know it's probably around funding and stuff like that, but you have a sense on, you know, what your thoughts are around that, and really looking for those ones where the unknowns are so we can be prepared for that.
Through the chair, I'll start off by saying with category 3 programs, lots of unknowns there. Many of the grant applications and the eligibility requirements aren't released yet. And those types of programs get released later in the year, different original announcements, of course, and then applying. And we don't always get every application we apply for. I'm looking at Teresa because she does an amazing job between her and Tatiana, some of the category 3 programs and funding sources that we have in the past. Again, I think everyone recognizes that funding is tight, some of those areas. So that's the biggest uncertainty. So we haven't put a lot of those anticipated values into this budget unless we have some certainty that we have an agreement that's either pending or signed. Teresa, I don't know if you want to add to that.
No, I think that just about, you know, some of the things that if, for example, if we're working with the provincial ministry and and a bureaucrat that we're working with has already said, okay, what do you want to do? Let's put these numbers in. We're more comfortable putting that in the budget, knowing we don't necessarily get it, but we have someone advocating for us. There's no for sure that we're going to get it. So it's kind of that situation. So the less sure of it, the less likely we're going to put it in the budget. And so I think it's, I don't know, Christine, I would say we're being really realistic. So this, you know, this to me would be almost the worst case.
In category 3 funding, like if you're not doing those programs, if you're not getting the funding for them, you're probably not doing those programs. I guess where I'm looking for is the things that are going to affect levy. I know they affect individual levy on category 3, but I guess trying to get the board to have a sense, are we expecting minor tweaks at this point?
I think,
Tracy.
yeah, if I can, and it was Christine's answer. She's putting her hand up.
I just want to flag the WECI program for the capital projects because we have had We're in the second of a 2-year agreement with, under that WECI program. The call for WECI applications, we're not gonna see until February, if we're lucky. We have almost $3 million worth anticipated WECI funding in the budget for capital at the structures. The whole pot for the province is 5. So we just don't know which projects might get approved and which ones might not get approved. But we have hopes a lot of these will get some funding.
And I guess, Mr. Chair, if I could, that leads into one of my second question, the communication around that capital work, especially if we see just due to the nature of the work, the varying is more on the capital side on those structures, it's just the projects that are going on, that communication is being done between the municipalities through asset management and everything, to everybody's, I think I know the answer, but just there's great communication going on, so everybody can be prepared on the municipal side and the conservation authority side, depending on if we're really successful or not successful.
Yeah, I'm looking at Chris to talk about WECI.
Yeah, I think in the question, I think if I may,
Yeah.
was
Projects that we would typically have.
was directed as much at the communication with municipalities and, at various budget stages, we endeavor to meet with the municipalities, discuss the projects as we see them and see feedback on that. Part of that discussion has to include the uncertainty around getting the WECI funding. The plans, should we not get them? And one of the options, should we not get them, is proceed with the project, which would then mean turning around and levying for the additional funding the subsequent year. And some of the drivers behind that might be where that project is headed. It makes sense for us to go ahead with design or investigation so that we can be ready to apply for the actual capital expenditure that comes out of that. So I'm just using that as one example.
No, and that's again, there's responsibility on both sides and everybody around the table of making sure that our municipalities are aware of, like, it's a great thing that we can get WECI funding sometimes, but some things can't be held up, and that can have an impact. And so this conversations on asset management planning and planning at the budget stage, so municipalities don't see wild swings. Some of these this is a lot of money, especially in a smaller municipality. Looking at Harsh, there's a big increase at City of Stratford this year, decrease in London, so there's this planning to try to make sure that happens. And as long as those conversations are going back and forth, I think that's a good thing. I know they are, but there should never be too much communication and heads up and knowledge from the elected official side as well. So it's not a surprise at budget time for your colleagues, right? One final question is, if I may, Mr. Chair, is that obviously the average is 6.7. London's obviously being, there's particular spotlight on that. I know that when you talk to city staff from staff level, you break it down into a London language, I'll call it London budget language. Is that something that could possibly be shared with the board as well when that's ready, or at least London members, just so you get that sense of that true effect on the London budget, because we do speak different languages in budgeting time. So this says 6.7. That doesn't really mean it's going to be a split up water, wastewater, and levy. They do. It's a little bit different. So I guess that's one of my concerns, is that communication piece again, is that we're talking, we get something that's apples to apples and not,
Yeah, and certainly we did have with Christine, myself, Chris, and Teresa, we all met with the finance department in early July 9th, maybe. Anyway, it seems like months ago now, but we did have a great conversation for them to understand our budgeting process. They could understand how that impacts our budget as well, and what that looks like. From the numbers that we had provided, again, it was back when the city was first initiating their multi-year budget process. It didn't include the modified current value assessments the same, because that's changes annually. But our forecast was a 6.9% for London. I think we're down to 6.4%. So that is a reduction for what London would see as their levy contribution. But we can certainly share that. Probably make more sense for the London members to see it, but certainly so everyone's aware that that is a reduction at this stage.
You're good, Brian? Okay, Sandy, go ahead, please.
Building on what Brian just asked about London, if I've read the report correctly, and what London's desire was for change in levy was a 1.5% reduction. And looking back at the numbers that were circulated at that particular meeting of council, the number that I calculated, it was 2.7 million on levy, 1.5% reduction is around $40,000. If I've read the report correctly, the levy reduction for the city of London is 140,000. So we've gone beyond and above what's been requested by the mayor and the budget chief. Is that correct?
That's our understanding as well.
Okay.
The 140,000 reduction that was approved through the multi-year budget process that we will not be requesting at this
Right.
stage.
Okay.
Process.
Yeah, and plus, if I've read it correctly as well, there's been agreement between the authority in London that the capital expenditures on the London dikes has also gone down from previous years, so that'll also therefore be reflected in the levy as well. Mind you, it's capital versus operating, but there's further reductions
Yes.
involved.
For the 2026 years. it's
Well,
been more
yeah.
of a delay in the project.
Yeah, I mean, table 3 is very clear as to what the changes are expected year over year. I mean, in total, it's a little over 3.5 million this year, a little under 3 million next year. And how that gets applied is always very interesting. The difference between what we'd like to be able to spend on the ore dam in 2026, and then 2027 is much lower. So capital is one of those funny things, and you've explained that well with WECI. Again, the amazing $5 million that's been $5 million since I don't know when. And I'm not going to ask Chris because he will remember. I also want to know, so we're talking with municipal staff about this draft, and we'll talk with municipal councilors when we have the October draft. Is that the plan?
We always go out and circulate it broadly for a notification period. We always get lots longer than required for a notification period. That allows any councils who wish me to come and present our draft at that point to their full councils to get out around the watershed, to provide those presentations and receive feedback through that way as well.
And it makes sense to do the October versus this one because October will be a little clearer.
Exactly.
Okay.
That gives us some time, and I know there's already been some staff discussions, especially around capital, allow some staff input too on the operating side and prepare for what we're thinking and receive feedback from staff before going to councils too.
And that hopefully we'll have more information about the category 3 programs as Teresa's kind of explained to us. I noticed we still have a column in there for the Clean Water Act. But if I understand it correctly, there's no municipal levy required. It's still being funded by the province.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
However, we always like to show it because it is a different weighted for the modified current value assessment.
And that comes from the province. And it seems, if I understand it, over the past little while, London's share of the MCVA has gone down. The result means it's on the other municipalities. And the implication is in dollars and cents, their share of the levy goes up because of that. And we have no control over it.
We have no control over that. That is spreadsheets that are provided by the province annually based on the current value assessment. I know that current value assessment is based on 2016 results that have been updated for new construction. But yeah, what we're seeing is a little bit of a shift where there might be smaller municipalities that had substantial growth and new builds, getting a little bit more of that assessed value.
Speaking of the province, ultimately it's the province who's going to decide how we can use any funds from land sales. Is that correct?
The province may give direction. In talking to other conservation authorities who have gone through land sales more recently, they actually didn't hear anything. You submit to the province what your plans are to do with the funds. If you hear back from the province, it's the province directing you. Otherwise, if you hear nothing, your plan is accepted.
Okay, so is there any
Timeline?
Yes, there is a timeline. There is a notification date, and I can't recall now. It's either 30 or 60 days, but there is a timeline for the province to respond.
Is there any benefit to getting that ahead of any sales as opposed to after? Can we even do it?
I don't know if we can do it before.
Okay. So probably better to wait.
Mhm.
All right, that's fair. And last thing I'd like to clarify. See, we always throw around CPI, the Consumer Price Index. But for capital costs, it's really the price index that's really more meaningful is the non-residential construction price index, which comes from Stats Canada. So the only one, there's two that are in use now, and I know there's going to be one for London. And that number, tracking that over a number of years, has been much, much higher than the consumer price index. So it's gonna have it has had a significant impact on our capital costs. And again, that's uncontrollable because that's what the private sector is charging municipalities and private sector in order to do projects like, well, everything on our capital list, because we don't do it as, we don't have staff to do stuff like that. Neither do municipalities for that matter. So CPI is meaningful when we're talking about compensation,
Yes.
but it's not necessarily meaningful when we're talking about other costs, in particular capital. So I like to repeat that probably once a year. About budget. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. Paul, go ahead, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I did have three questions. One, but the one I had about the impact first draft of the budget on what London wanted from us, I think it's been answered. My second question was on table 3 capital projects. At the bottom of the column that says net projects, there's a number of 1,283,000. I just want to confirm that's the money that comes out of to complete these projects based on expected funding.
Yeah, through the chair, that's absolutely correct.
That's right. And the different, there are multiple reserves, like there's not one giant reserve. There's reserves for each one of these various structures and.
Absolutely. We have specified reserves for each one of our structures so that we know that if a levy contribution from a certain municipality, it goes specifically to that structures, and then everything is from staff codes to supplies and equipment and maintenance is coded to that same fund.
And there's enough money in those reserves individually, or is that to be determined?
That's where asset
didn't ask this
management
one
will
ahead
come in. That's where asset management planning will
Okay.
certainly assist us, because I think many of our reserves are underfunded right now. I don't know if Christine wants to add anything further to that comment.
And our reserves are inadequately funded.
Okay.
But others are fine.
Okay. And my other question has to do with wages and benefits, which make up 59% of the projected total operating expenses. And coming out of COVID, it appeared that work from home would be the new normal for at least part of the workforce. But over the last year or so, pretty well all private sector businesses and even the provincial and federal government have either eliminated work from home or drastically reduced it. I just wondered, does the upper end still have employees that work from home full-time or on hybrid schedule?
Yes, I can't really share. There's only a few that have special accommodations to work from home full-time, and we are updating our accommodation policy. But we do have a hybrid option for many of our staff. There's some positions that just cannot be done remotely, of course. And I'd also note that we've had a flex time and flex place policy long before COVID as well. But we really recognize how having in-office work can be preference, but having a remote work arrangement also has its advantages too, for both the Upper Thames and its employees. So implementing a broader remote work policy, it's really allowed sustained productivity by employees and innovation and effort. We find that it decreases employee turnover and absenteeism. And it's certainly been able for us to attract top talent and employee well-being as well, having that work-life balance. So I think that's been kind of what's guided us to maintain that. We may have some tweaks to the policy moving forward, but right now we've been really focused on how we can accommodate staff who need that flexibility too. So that's been the first step.
If I may follow up to that, the reason I asked the question and you give a good explanation of why a hybrid work from home schedule works, benefits both sides. And it's interesting that Upper Thames was doing it before COVID. We were ahead of things on that. But the rationale that a lot of companies and the government is using to reduce it or eliminate it is productivity issues. And the other thing is mentoring. And they're saying that it's difficult to mentor people online rather as face-to-face. So I didn't ask this question in my email, so I'm kind of just throwing it at you. Is there any concern there? Because we have seen tremendous turnover in the last 5 or 6 years, and we've brought in a lot of younger, inexperienced people that need face-to-face mentoring. So is any concern there with the current policies on hybrid work?
If I can through the chair, I think we've kind of addressed that maybe on an ad hoc basis, and that might be an area where our policy can be more prescriptive. But certainly I know that when we've had some new hires, we've said, hey, during this period, we want you in the office more frequently because we recognize that mentoring piece. So again, our policy is up to 50%. Again, that comes from the manager and what is needed for the position. And again, that newness of staff or a new employee, that 50% may not be allocated initially. And we update and review those work from home arrangements. That's the intent, to make sure that they are satisfying both the Upper Thames and the employee for what our needs are. But exactly what you're mentioning, that mentorship, sometimes it makes more sense for the person to have those face-to-face conversations. If there's a need for further collaboration in person, you can look over someone's shoulder or have those broader group discussions that you might not have the same feedback on the screens.
I appreciate that. And I think it's worthwhile discussion because I'm not questioning the productivity or anything that's been going on with our employees, but on the bigger picture, there's certainly been controversy in the general population about productivity at other levels of government. We need to know what is happening at the Upper Thames and what has happened at the Upper Thames on that type of structure. Thanks, Tracy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Looking to the members for any further question or discussion. Check in with Hugh, Scotty, Peter, anything? You're good, Peter? Okay, Brian, you had your hand up.
Yeah, it's just interesting. I'll be honest, I haven't done the deep dive. Usually I wait till October to get those numbers to do all the figures and math and stuff, because I don't want to do it 5 times. But the CVA is always interesting because we haven't had this thing since a change in assessments to 2016. So the change between class is one of those things. We just saw an announcement the other day. The city of London received billing faster funds of $12 million, which means they're 95% of their targets, which means they have a lot of housing growth. Where in Oxford County, we haven't, but our assessment is because we have a lot of industrial growth per capita versus for London. And so that CVA, those changes between those classes really do affect things on the ground because you're not, that the housing market prices have not been realized in that new assessment. So it's interesting to see there that if you had to guess, there's probably a lot more growth happening in London than in Oxford County, but it's a different type of growth. And that really, we're talking CVA, that's really where it hits the road and changes things. So I think that and really we're seeing just minuscule, really is, there's just a couple, like London and Oxford County have really switched places to change the CVA. The other ones are really minuscule, like all of Perth County combined is like, or what we consider Perth County, sorry, Stratford and St. Mary's, I consider in there, that area. Your change of like plus 0.01, no, sorry, negative 0.0176%. So it's like, yeah, as we go out and we talk to province, we talk to impact and all this thing, this assessment issue is causing impacts everywhere because the change in the tax classes, they can try to do it to 2016 levels and convert it, but we've seen all this impact, we've seen all the change, and really, I'm sure that's what's causing them a lot of hesitation to want to do anything because as we wait longer, but this is just causing more issues and more issues. To be honest, I'm surprised we haven't seen more pushback from the agricultural community as housing prices have gone up. We certainly saw it when their assessment went up, but it does affect the levy system here as well because of just the different types of growth. Because I can tell you housing is not happening in Oxford County.
I guess I'll maybe further Brian's comment on the current value assessment. With regards to the agricultural community, there is recognition in the community on their assessment and how it stacks up against the other classes. To that end, I did at Roma, I presented that question to finance minister at the ministers forum. The answer was to the province, it's a zero sum game. They don't see it as, the answer that I got was they don't see it as big an issue at their level as opposed to what we see at the local level. So that's,
Sure.
that's the short answer. So therein, I guess, not only from the perspective of the board, but at our individual municipal councils, we need to further that discussion with the province to get these like whatever updates are necessary get done so that everyone can say, okay, we're at the assessment parameters where we're supposed to be. They've all been updated. It's supposed to be a more level playing field than it was before, but your point's well taken.
I would say that it's probably good for the province that most people don't know how value assessment works.
Yeah. But it goes back to your communication piece with the municipalities and with our colleagues that are respective municipal governments, so. Well, Anna, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to add to the conversation, being an AMO board member, we've had conversations. The impact assessment has not been done in 10 years. We're heading into a municipal election as well. So as much as we need to have these assessments and have a better understanding, we are also pushing for a different way of doing these assessments. In terms of an economic prosperity, reviewing everything. But again, the challenges are if the province isn't listening at the moment, but we do have concerns about the municipal election coming up, and assessments should be happening after the municipal election, since we are probably going to have to wear it. But I just wanted to add that information.
Thanks, Anna. All right, final call for questions or comments. Don't see any, so I'll read the recommendation as follows: that the Board of Directors receive the 2026 preliminary draft budget and direct staff to prepare the 2026 draft. Second, please. Moved by Skylar, seconded by Brian. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried unanimously. Thank you, Tracy and staff for your work to date, and we look forward to the next report in October. So moving on our agenda, as mentioned at the start, item 7, reports in camera. That item has been deleted. So we will move into section 8, reports for information. First one is 8.1, and the subject is the 2025 mid-year financial update and revised budget. So report prepared by Christine. And Christine's available to answer any questions of the report. Well, Christine, do you want to lead off on anything, or?
No, we're tracking well. At this point in the year, I'm not seeing anything surprising. Don't expect much different by the end of the year than what we thought.
So it's a good thing that UTRCA does not have a big snow removal budget considering. George and I were commenting on that on the walk into the parking lot.
We do have a snow removal budget. That's purview, but we're gonna hope that winter is open.
Thanks, Christine. Tracy, any comments? from
No,
your side?
just again, happy to see things are tracking well. Nothing really unexpected.
Okay, so we have recommendation here that the board of directors receive the report for information. I'll look for a move in a seconder. George Harge, questions or comments from board members? None, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It's carried. Thank you. Okay, so item 8.2 is next. And that's the strategic plan update. The next phase for this will be to operationalize the plan where the specific actions, metrics, and leaders will be identified. Tracy and Teresa have worked together on this report, so I'll turn the floor over to Tracy to start us off.
Okay, thank you. I put together a bit of a presentation. Again, this effort has been assisted by Platinum Leadership, who helped with our engagement sessions. But I'll be going through all of that. Certainly a shout out to Teresa for all of her background in assisting with this project, as well as Eleanor, part of our writing team, pulling all the information together. So lots of great comments and feedback, and then bringing it down to more manageable bite-sized pieces. It's a huge task, so I appreciate that immensely. So with this, our overview, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the timeline, the engagement sessions, and how that was undertaken briefly, and then get into what we have as our draft strategic priorities and goals, and then highlight some of the next steps. So our timeline, we had phase 1 through the winter. You'll recall our vision, mission, and values, had board and employee engagement to identify those vision, missions, and values. And then we incorporated those vision, and values into our watershed strategy that was happening by the end of the year. In the spring, we undertook with Platinum Leadership and interest holder engagement. The consultant prepared the discovery report for 2 that pulled together the key themes through that engagement, responses to the questions asked, either through direct interviews or through online input. And then that was used to inform our priorities and goals. So phase 3 was the summer. Managers and the senior leadership, senior managers and coordinators of the program department. We had an engagement session to develop those priorities, and Platinum Leadership leading that, and identify how we can pursue each one of our goals. And then the job of the writing team to take that information, distill it. And then we went back again, had another session with our engagement with the senior leaders to review what we had put together and provide edits. Then we circulated that out to staff for final input. So now we're here, Board of Directors, to receive what we have as a draft, recognizing we've got some next steps that I'll talk about in a few slides. So as a reminder, we really focused on staff and board engagement in the fall, developing those vision, mission, and values. And the writing team took that and presented the report in November, and then we incorporated the vision, mission, values at the December meeting. Really, next steps, or sorry, next slide, please. The context is that it's kind of the top part of our pyramid. The vision is our desired future state. Our mission is what organization does. And then those values and guiding principles are our timeless and non-negotiable items that guide our actions and decisions every day. The next slide, you can see how that sample of our strategic plan highlights that the first part, recognizing that our priorities are separated into these buckets. That was the best way to visualize how we might have various priorities, and each one of those priorities has their own goal. So looking at this slide, taking a little bit of a zoom in on the next slide, really shows that each priority will have its goals, key performance indicators, and then, didn't quite show, but you might have to hit like that. Yeah, there's that division between the board and management team. So the governance of the strategic plan versus the operational elements that we'll be moving into. And if you can hit the buttons again, we'll have various strategies or plans for each one of those priorities. Next slide or next button is the key actions, timelines, resources, and leaders for each one of those plans or strategies. And there could be multiple. Just kind of giving that overview. So with that, the next slide, we did the 5-finger model to gain consensus. And happy to report that I think everything we had either 4 or 5s in agreement with how we came to our priorities, and the goals are presented now. Next slide. So a reminder of our strategic plan so far with the vision, mission, and values. Our vision is communities engaged in a healthy, resilient environment. Our mission is to conserve and protect the watershed through science, education, policy, action, and experiences in nature. And our values, leadership, we modeled and encourage sustainable, innovative stewardship of the watershed. Through collaboration, we partner to protect and promote a healthy environment and resilient communities. And through integrity, we act with transparency and accountability and root our work in science. So then we went to the spring with public and interest holder engagement with the consultant interviewing and online surveys with partner groups, municipal partners, board members, both current and past, the public, other conservation authorities kind of within the Southwest region, non-government organizations, school boards, land development groups, property GCs. This interviews and online surveys maintained confidentiality through the reporting, and the consultant provided those responses organized by interest holder group and interview teams that assisted us to focus on priorities. Next slide. With that, the managers and senior leadership team fortunate enough to use the Watson Porter Pavilion after some of the renos down there and use this information to then develop priorities, goals, and how we pursue each goal. The writing team, Teresa, Eleanor, myself, and took that information, again, had a follow-up session to review edits, and then we literally use buckets through our engagement session. The next slide, really focusing on that vision, our communities engaged in a healthy and resilient environment, came up with 4 different priority areas: environmental health, watershed resilience, organizational excellence, engagement, collaboration. And although we've numbered them as priorities, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think that was more for keeping it straight in our head. And I think depending on what staff you're working with and what programs we're working with, they're all different priorities and have that equal weight. So with priority One, the environmental health priority. Our goal is to build a thriving, healthy ecosystem by gathering and utilizing knowledge of the natural environment to guide the UTRCA's work and inspire action. Slide, we identified how we would pursue this goal. Strengthen environmental monitoring, data collection, and other ways of knowing to inform decision-making and action. That really kind of focused in, like, first we need to monitor. The monitoring could be everything from flood forecasting and warning to invasive species monitoring to inform watershed health, to really have an understanding of what the issues are. The next bullet there was to improve access to and understanding of environmental information through communication and education. That was making sure that our information that we have is accessible and that we're using it to communicate, educate others. One thing to have data, all the ingredients, but another to bake the cake. And have it in usable form. The next bullet there is to enable local stewardship by informing and supporting actions to protect and improve watershed health. And that's additional information like our report cards that can guide those actions on the ground. It's not always us doing the actions, it's making sure, and we're inspiring others to take note of the issues at hand and take action locally. And then protecting the watershed's ecological integrity by building connected natural systems and enhancing the UTRCA's network of conservation lands. And that's using that monitoring information and data to protect and build on our own lands, recognizing how we can contribute as well. Next slide. Priority is watershed resilience. The goal to enhance the watershed's resilience and the ability of communities to adapt to a changing environment. And how we would pursue this goal, building long-term resilience by taking action to strengthen the watershed in a way that supports both the environment and local communities. And recognizing this is probably going to be operationalized through the development of a broader watershed resiliency plan with actions to improve green infrastructure as an example. There could be improvements to some of our hardened gray infrastructure as well. The next bullet point, to proactively identify and manage natural hazards to protect people, property, and ecosystems while supporting safe development. And that's further identification of hazard lands, both flooding and erosion hazards, while recognizing that we want to support development that's safe and avoids those hazards. The next bullet point there, identify and manage threats to municipal drinking water sources. We're certainly achieving that through implementing the recommendations of the source protection plan and undertaking risk management within the source protection region. The last bullet point, to model sustainability and resilience on the UTRCA's conservation lands. And again, that's recognizing how we can take action on the lands that we own. This was recognized through our land strategy. Profits uses the term conservation lands, and it's broader than just our own lands, because certain properties have certain benefits that they can provide. Slide. Engagement collaboration priority is a goal. Strengthen relationships with watershed interest holders and enhance environmental knowledge and understanding to inspire action on shared goals. And we'll do this through deepening relationships and improved communication with municipalities, Indigenous communities, partners, newcomers, and other watershed residents. We recognize that's something that we do. We do lots of communication, but we need to ensure that we're deepening those relationships and perhaps tooting our horn a little bit more. The next bullet point is to enable local environmental action and volunteerism by facilitating community-led efforts and sharing expertise. And it builds on the engagement or the first priority as well. They need the science and understanding to then enable that local action. And we know that we often can play the role of facilitating those efforts and share our knowledge and expertise through citizen science, tree planting efforts. We also want to provide education, including hands-on outdoor experiences to foster conservation ethic in young people, recognizing that engagement with our environment starts young, and we need to continue to foster so that we can see those same ethics in future leaders. I think of the Green Leaders Program as a great example of that. Connecting people with nature and green space to promote environmental awareness, education, appreciation, and action. Again, it's our lands that can provide that opportunity. So we wanted to recognize that awareness is an opportunity to educate and build an appreciation that ultimately leads to action. The next priority is organizational excellence. The goal to be a creative, adaptable, and trusted conservation authority. We'll do this through, got a few more goals there, but to practice good governance through transparent decision-making, effective communication, and accountable results. And certainly that starts in this room as you as the board members. We need to be trusted. We need to ensure we're being transparent with decision-making with regular communications and being accountable. For long-term financial sustainability through sound fiscal practice, asset management, and diversified funding. Certainly, we have to be a fiscally organization. That's heard a lot through our engagement sessions with the board early on. We need to attract, develop, and support passionate, skilled employees and inclusive, diverse, and collaborative collaborative workplace. We need the people, either new employees or long-serving. We want to make sure we have opportunities for development while supporting passionate staff who truly care about the work we do, while ensuring we are remaining an inclusive, diverse, and collaborative. We'll test just hearing Scott this morning before our meeting. We have lots of passionate staff about the work they do. We want to deliver high quality service and client-centered engagement in all of the work that we do. But we also wanted to specify as well, dig a little bit deeper, that we need to strengthen communication and transparency and regulatory decisions to support a more responsive process for municipalities, developers, and watershed residents. And that's certainly something that we're working towards. Streamlining initiatives, we wanted to recognize it too, how we're actually pursuing that goal. And ultimately to modernize digital tools to improve efficiency and make information services easier to access for staff and the public. Recognize to deliver these goals, we need to have modern digital tools at our fingertips in order to improve that efficiency and make information services to access for everyone is an essential part of what we do and how we can get our messages out. So next slide, we'll be moving into operational plans. That will be incorporating a lot of what it's already been undertaken. For example, the watershed strategy and the conservation areas strategy, the land strategy, and aligning it with this strategic plan. Plans will have specific timelines, specific activities, timelines, leaders, and success measures, while giving us through the strategic plan direction, allowing us to have that focus, but also be agile. We always have different opportunities that come to us, and having something that's a little bit flexible while still supporting our goal for a healthy, resilient watershed for all. Looking ahead, we certainly want to build a healthy and engaged watershed community guided by knowledge and collaboration, driven by sustainability and innovation, and committed to protecting our natural environment for future generations. We really heard a lot of those terms through much of the engagement and the support for the work that we do. So I guess our question here today, is there anything missing? That was our question to staff, making sure that we captured that. So some of that input that we heard from staff was incorporated into this draft before bringing it to you today. Is there anything else that feel that maybe we've overlooked? We certainly want to hear from you today.
Thanks, Tracy. Board members, we got Sandy on the speakers list first, and then
I'm more of a 2 right now. And I'm not going to share today all the back and forth that I've engaged with Tracy and her team. I'm not sure we're all the way there yet on the strategic plan. For example, can we scroll back to where you show KPIs, which are key performance indicators? Right? And that seemed to be a board issue, or for the board piece. Yet it seemed, I don't really see them in the strategic plan. I notice I see it in the operational plans. So there's a disconnect for me. Because, I mean, we're still at a draft, I get that. But I don't know what allows us to check off to say we've done that at this stage. Part of the reason is, I think some of the language, we're using our language, which we generally understand, but I'm not sure our publics do, because this is both an internal document and an extra, outside facing document too. So we need to be really clear on stuff like, what do we mean by watershed health? Not sure. What do we mean by ecosystems? Means different things to different people. Even the term conservation lands. Are we talking about Fanshawe, Wildwood, Pittock? Or are we talking about other lands that we own? So I think there's work to be done on making sure that our diverse publics understand what we mean by language that we use all the time. We know what it means. Staff know what it means. I want to make sure that the publics understand it so that there's a connection. And the other thing too is I'm not 100% sure that the strat plan really clarifies our mandated roles and what are our non-mandated roles, category 3 stuff. The category 3 stuff is we do really, really well. And we excite people with it. We excite staff with it. But there may be audiences that see what's in there more of an emphasis on that than on our mandated role. I'm not sure we're all the way there yet in terms of how we express our stuff. You know, as a board member, that's an opinion, obviously. And I'm not going to be here as long as the organization is.
On now.
You might be here. You might be here.
You will
You
be
for
here.
sure. Yeah, but, yeah, again, it's not me as an individual to write the plan for staff because it's a living document. It's an ongoing document. I'm just expressing at this point, I think there's great work that's been done. I just don't think it's done yet. So I look forward to what's going to come back. I know we're still at a draft phase. I just want to express and share with the board, you know, kind of the deep dive that I did on this, and I look forward to the next draft.
Well, if I can just say the last slide, I think, pull that up. That this is the broader, and I think what Sandy you're getting at is you like the details. So we still have next steps, and that's to develop the operational plans. Identifying the leads and those key performance indicators and metrics will, or the targets will come out of that, and then ultimately reporting on our progress as well. So really, this is to make sure we're on the right track for looking at the broader picture. This is what we feel we've heard from staff, from our members, and all of our partners about where our priorities need to be, and then how we get there in the to-do and measuring those KPIs is really that next step. Is there anything that we've missed so far that we're not moving down and getting too far in the weeds that hasn't been captured by how we've identified the priorities and goals and how we're wanting to achieve those goals?
Brian, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about that. The process was done and it's that way. It does go along those lines of Sandy, and I know that part is coming. My biggest worry always with strategic plans is that the work after the strategic plan process is not done to be able to implement it. And that's the biggest worry, is that we have a strategic plan that justifies what we do instead of being a leading document where we want to go. And that's where I will be looking for, and I think that's really where we need to incorporate those documents that tell us where we're gonna go and how we're gonna implement this as a full package. So when someone pulls up the strategic plan, that roadmap is there. I know it's not there yet because it hasn't been done, but so we can see the connection between this, and that it is a document, because there's potential for it to go either way right now, because we don't have those other documents. So those are the ones that are gonna be approved, but again, the consultation part, I think, that was done, and I think that input's there, but I am really interested in the next step of those other ones there about how do we make sure this is a leading document to take us where we want to go, and not just, what I hate is when you see a report that every report has something to do with the strategic plan. How it fits in, how that report fits into the strategic plan. To me, that's like, then you're trying to figure out daily operations, and that's not really what a strategic plan is. A strategic plan is how do we make those big steps to get us where we want to go. Daily operations should follow in behind, but you lose that importance of a strategic plan about the calculated steps that are important. But if we look back to the process of complying with all the regulatory changes that happened, that was a specific project that led us to an outcome. And that's really what I want the next documents to be, is how do we get, these are inspirational, these are priorities. How do we get those into real, like Sandy was talking about, how everybody can have the same thing, and how do we get to that moment and make those strategic items, so when they do come before the board, it's like, this is a strategic priority, this will have this effect, and here's how we do it. And I think, we'll get there. Again, that's the stuff that has to come, but I guess for long version around, I don't have anything to add to this part. But I got to say what I gotta say. So.
Thanks, Brian. Tracy, any response? to
So
that?
I think that's, again, I think even staff sometimes grappled with, oh, well, this is what we're doing right now. But this is intended to be that forward-looking document. And that's why I hesitate to put things into specific categories, because that was mentioned, because we have so much programs and potential for integration, especially when we're dealing with climate change and adaptation and building resiliency. And even our water quality monitoring, currently do that across 3 different categories of program. So it's not about what we're doing now, it's again that future state and how we want to continue to build. And having something that's adaptable really just recognizes these are my main priorities that we want to focus on. And there's certainly more work to come. Some of those things, like the watershed strategy and the land strategy, are already guiding what we're doing. But we want to have a human resources strategy for staff. And we're continuing to build our asset management plan. So we know that there's other things out there that will continue to guide us, and it's not all going to happen tomorrow. Again, this is to deliver on over a number of years. And that's where those timelines, and then, as we say, how do we actually measure that progress? Those key performance indicators, but then how do we how do we report back on what we've achieved on a regular basis too? Teresa, did you want to add anything?
The only thing I would add is that it was a great opportunity for us to speak to a lot of new staff. And that's really important to us, because that's how we build our culture. We need everybody kind of moving in the same direction. So this was a great opportunity for us to have everybody involved. We have a lot of new senior leaders in the organization, to have them involved with you. So I think hearing from them was extremely positive, and then really getting a little bit of a temperature reading on our interest holders. We heard a lot of things about Indigenous communities, new Canadians, lots of places where we know we have a lot of work to do, even just from interest holder standpoint, but even we could sit and write 20 new business plans right now from a couple meetings with some of those groups. So I think it was a great process for us to go through, very timely. Hopefully, all the changes legislatively have been made, so, you know, our context is so different right now. So. And it was good to do.
Yes, great. Thank you, Teresa.
Thanks, Teresa. Paul, go ahead, please.
Couple of questions, and it's been 2 years since the board approved going ahead with this, and it's gonna be 12 to 15 months, maybe longer, from the time it started developing until it's implemented. When we started out on this journey, did staff anticipate it would take this long and take this much effort to do this project, or is it becoming more than we anticipated when we started?
Yeah, through Dean. Well, we did have a few starts and stops to the process. As Teresa just mentioned, we had lots of other things going on too with the watershed strategy and the land strategy and the timing of that. And, you know, initially we were thinking that we would try to capture all the public consultation for the strategic plan through those efforts as well. And instead, we opted to kind of take a little bit of a step back and let that process move forward with the watershed strategy and the land strategy, and really utilize some of the information we gleaned from those processes to help us initiate the strategic plan. So although it's on paper, it's been on the works for 12 to 15 months. When we put out our first round of RFPs, it was likely summertime, poor timing. We didn't get any uptake. So again, some of that initial starting with a consultant didn't happen until the fall last year. So I think once we truly got started with the initial consultations for the vision, mission, values, we took a couple of months off in January and February. I know I was sick and had planned vacations in February. Then we got back to it, and you know, it's taken time, but it does take time to get valuable input and to engage with as many people as we have. And I think that, you know, we'd like to move things quicker along, but we know that how valuable that is. And then once we got the results and had those engagement sessions, I know staff had commented, oh, I'm surprised we got as much done in a day, pulling it all together. And then Eleanor and I and the writing team, that took a lot longer than we had anticipated as well. And having those conversations, we did talk about language, like Sandy had indicated, you know, in our minds, watershed health was very encapsulating. It means it's not just the features on the ground, it's woodlot, but what is the health of that woodlot? You know, is it filled with invasive species? There's ties to having a healthy watershed, the water quality for everything. Thought using some broader terminology was helpful. So lots of discussions about how we could simplify it, how we could identify it so it was more readable. And conservation lands, again, the thinking of that term, we had lots of discussion about that, because that really is to mean all of our lands and not conservation areas. And how we approach
It's the authority owned lands.
Yeah.
Ding dong.
Exactly. But again, we get a little tied up knowing that we have a strategy for our conservation lands, trying to. But totally understand, I can totally make that amendment. But that's where a lot of the discussion happened to then pull it together and bring it to present today.
Follow-up is a crystal ball question. And given the amount of time and effort that's been put into this, and it goes till 2030, assuming that there will be 2031 to 35, do you expect that the next strategic plan can be built on top of this one? And use a lot of the information that's been gathered, maybe make the next strategic plan maybe a little less comprehensive, a little less time consuming, and a little less costly. Since we kind of started as square one on this one, if I remember right.
Yes, through the chair. You know, it was a very comprehensive effort, and that was because we've had so much change since our last strategic plan, and really wanting to get there and have those discussions. I recognize that we also will have our watershed strategy that we'll be reviewing regularly and our land strategy that we'll be reviewing regularly. So I am hopeful that it won't have to be comprehensive next time. As for costly, I think, you know, comparing with other strategic plans, this one was probably cheaper than what most would have to pay. But it's certainly certainly some that I'd love to have a crystal ball. We're not sure, you know, how we'll have to approach it in the future. Again, I can only really talk about our past experience, and that, yeah, the target was a great exercise. It really focused on the ground activities that we needed to make the fund and in all the features in our watershed improved. But I can still see some of those same metrics used in our outcomes for the priorities that we have today and that we're presenting today. But it just didn't set the stage more broadly as how we operate as an organization. So bringing in the organizational. I hope we've covered all the bases, and I think with this foundation, it'll allow us to build and tweak instead of such a comprehensive update that we've had to go through this. Lisa, did you have any other questions?
I feel like if we could answer that, we'd be buying lottery tickets because I'm not be sure what the province is gonna do.
Exactly.
Members online, any questions? Comments? See any? Board members? No, okay. Thanks, Tracy and Teresa. On this very important document and process. So recommendation here is that the Board of Directors receive this report for information. Mover and seconder, please. Anna and Skylar. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It's carried. Thank you. Moving up to 8.3, administration and enforcement, the section 28 status report. Jenna and Joe are able to answer any questions for it. Sandy?
Two hopefully quick questions. The first page, last paragraph, it mentions 30% of those permits in progress are within the City of London. Is that 30% of the 33 permits in progress, or the 6 and the 6 from 2024 and 1 from 2023? So I'm just trying to get my numbers straight in my head. It's 30% of which?
For you, question. So yeah, it's 30% of 33.
Okay, so it's 9 or 10.
And as you can see, the 6 that are outstanding from 2024, there was a handful of London in there, but that 30% is referencing the 33 that's still in progress.
Okay.
And I would say that's a combination of applications that are deemed incomplete and still going through the process, and applications where they're in the middle of the process, but we haven't issued a permit yet. So at the next report, some of that will balance out.
And the table on the second page seems to suggest the number of applications is much lower than last year. So I'm assuming that reflects activity.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So this was something that I guess a new table that you haven't seen in the past reports. So now that we're about past mid-year, I've taken the opportunity to take a dive into those outstanding applications and do a progress review. A couple things to highlight on that chart is there's a few more applications that we've canceled. And what I mean by that is we assign a number to track it for timeline purposes. But we have a situation where finance needs that assigned number to be able to process payment of fees efficiently for applications. So what we've seen is there's a handful of applications from last year where staff have done comprehensive consultation in anticipation that an application. So they assign a number so that when they do apply and pay the fee, finance can efficiently process that payment. What we're realizing though is there's been situations where the application never gets submitted. The applicant doesn't advance it. And because staff get tied up in other processes, then we have this tracking file number that seems outstanding, but there was never really an application submitted. So those are ones where we've gone back to say, there's been no activity, we confirmed the proponent, they're not advancing it, so we've canceled those numbers. And I think too, if they were to pick it back up, we would simply just assign a new number under the current year, start that process over again. So when we say there's been applications canceled due to activity, it's because there was never a formal application or a fee ever paid. The other aspect I noted here is I'm happy to report the 2023 permit is now off the books. The permit's been issued. That one, interestingly enough, is one where staff supported it. It was a chicken before the egg scenario where staff wanted the site plan review by other agencies to happen because there was anticipated changes, but we were supportive of it from the whole beginning. So that was one where we were fully supportive of, but it took time to get through the other process, and finally the permit's been issued. And then as you can see, the 6 that are left outstanding from 2024, they all haven't quite reached a year yet, as most of them were submitted in the fall. But ultimately here, I guess for lack of a better phrase, is the ball's still in their court. There's nothing currently in our control time-wise. So we have one where it was a hearing board decision, but there was prior conditions that have to be met. Those conditions satisfied. We have a couple where an application's been submitted, but now there's a third party involvement. That applicant's trying to resolve those issues before it comes back and pushes their application. And then we have a couple that are just actively working through back and forth with staff. And then the final one is another case where there's been no application, but there's been very comprehensive consultation through the process, and very much so anticipated an application. So we left that number on file there. So what I'm happy to report today is there's still 6 outstanding applications from 2024. Some have been paused beyond our control, others are actively moving. And I would say that the 26 that are still outstanding in 2025 are proactively going through the process to get that moving as well. So it is something I'd like to do on a more periodic time is do a progress review, understand why some of those applications are still standing, how we move forward. And then another note as we move forward to developing updated procedure policies, I'd really like to highlight in there, what do we deal with inactive files and how do we persist?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good, thanks, Joe. Any other questions on this report? Okay, seeing none. Recommendation is that the board of directors receive this report for information. Moved by Mark, second by Paul. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. 8.4 administrative review. There's ARO discretionary policy decisions in the quarterly report. Jenna and Joe are able to answer any questions on this report. We don't see any from the floor, so recommendation is that board of directors receive this report for information. With Diana, seconded by Harge. All those in favor? Opposed, that's carried, thank you. Okay, 8.5, hazard mapping consultation update. Jenna and Aaron led this effort, so I'll turn it over to staff to provide their report on this.
Sure. Through the chair, to the board, we've been on a fairly long and winding road in terms of consultation on our sort of major update to our regulated area mapping along the Thames River through the city of London. So we initiated consultation back in the fall, almost a year ago, so last September, where we started to engage the city of London in our mapping updates. Then we did initiate public consultation in October, which extended into the end of the year. And we had quite a lot of feedback from both the public, the City of London, as well as the development industry. So we've spent quite a bit of time kind of reviewing all of those comments, making some changes in association with the comments received and through those consultations. And I think we're finally in a place where we're happy with kind of where the mapping has landed. And we're looking to, the regulation requires us to post again publicly for 30 days, the mapping prior to coming in front of the board. So it's our intention to post at the end of September with the intention of bringing the consultation report and the final mapping to the board at your October meeting sort of for final approval and implementation.
Okay, thanks, Jack. Tracy, anything further? No? Okay. Questions, comments? Sandy, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm asking this or talking through it to highlight for City of London members who are on council. Because if I understand it correctly, this report also includes what's known as the Dingman Creek screening area. No, doesn't include it at all. Okay, but there is work being done on that?
Right, so this specific update is just for the area along the Thames River through the city. So Dingman Creek is a separate part of the city. And that's where the city has been leading updates to specifically the flood hazard by engaging external consultants and undertaking some modeling work along the Dingman Creek. So we had previously done updated flood modeling for Digman, which resulted in kind of a screening area. It was sort of a worst case scenario of the extent of the flood hazard along Digman Creek. And so since, I can't remember, Chris, for how many years now we've had that screening area in place while the city has been undertaking and looking at the flood modeling and trying to refine the flood hazard in Digman. So we're very close. We've been working very closely with the city in coming to an agreement on the extent of the flood hazard in Digman. And I think the intention is for the city to go out to another public meeting at the beginning of October. And they'll be providing the public with that sort of finalized and agreed upon flood hazard.
But as I understand it, when the city went through its exercise of deciding how much land it needed for its urban growth boundary, it basically said the Dingman screening area of 300 hectares was excluded entirely. So for 30 years, they needed an extra 300 hectares in order to compensate for that. And if we're getting that close, somebody needs to ask the question, why is that 300 being excluded? And that's why I'm kind of alerting it to the council members from London. To me, there's a mismatch that you may want to investigate. That's it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. Skylar, go ahead, please.
Thank you, yes. Given we're taking off, it sounds like the 0.3 meters off of the maps, but they'll stay in the policy. I'm just wondering, because I know there's some residents more towards like the Kensington Village area, that they were not, for this process, they were not in the water area, flood area. And then I remember they all got a big mail out saying you're now maybe gonna be in it because it's moved up. Are those neighborhoods still gonna be included, or with the 0.3 meter drop, will they now be out of the potential flood zones? I know I'm using a really specific example, but I'm sure there are probably other neighborhoods I'm not aware of that also might have gotten a message, and I'm just wondering if they went in and now they're gonna go back out, or I don't know if you can answer that.
I can't answer that today. I think I'd have to look at the mapping and see specifically the area and what the impacts are. But yeah, I mean, just to be to kind of provide you with maybe a bit more of a visual of what that looks like on the landscape. The flood hazard is the sort of where the river is going to overtop in the event of a 250-year storm, is going to overtop the banks and spread out. And so our engineers model the 250-year event, and that's the extent of the flood hazard. So our initial mapping also included another 30 centimeters of vertical flood hazard on top of the regulatory hazard, which was the freeboard area for uncertainties, including uncertainties related to climate change. And so now that we've removed that piece, it takes that extra 30 centimeters vertical off. What does get added to the extent of the flood hazard is another 15-meter horizontal setback. So that defines the regulated area. So where you've got your flood hazard, you add an extra 15 meters horizontal, and that's the extent of our regulated area. So there are places where that vertical 30 centimeters extended beyond where that 15 15 meters horizontal extent to, particularly in flat areas. So where you've got a very flat area where the river's overtopping and then expanding out along a flat area, you can go quite a distance before you get kind of 30 centimeters in vertical rise. And so that would all have been encompassed in the mapping previously, whereas that will be scaled back now and just a 15-meter horizontal. Does that make sense?
Yes. But if I can just add to what Jenna said too, this is regulated areas features mapping. So we also regulate erosion hazards along the valley systems. So depending on the site of the property, they may be within a valley system that is regulated because of the nature of the valley and an erosion area as well, or an area of wetland, the area of interference surrounding those wetlands. So this isn't just about flood hazards. I know that tends to be the topic of conversation, but this is our regulated areas, all of our hazards being updated.
Any other, Scott, follow up?
Follow-up, sorry. And I'm just wondering when this all gets done, soon, when this all gets done, so I used to live in a regulated area and I recently moved and my insurance has dropped $3,000 a year. I'm wondering, will folks, like, does this go to insurance folks? How does this get distributed afterwards and who's going to be using it? Because I feel like it's good for residents to know that they're in these areas, because it does impact them financially. So I'm wondering, like, how do we disseminate this to people who are in the area and will remain in the area, and then new people will be added to the area? Because I know it would be expensive to mail everybody, but I'm just curious as to how residents will know and if this information goes to insurance needs after, or how do they use it? You know, either of those.
To start, I guess I'll start through this process. This was a very extensive consultation process and we provided direct mail outs to anyone within those regulated areas that were highlighted. So not a lot of people do that. Again, typical notification processes is that, you know, it's posted. It's like any planning process. You notify people through trying to get it out through media and postings on websites and as much traction as possible. That is one of the concerns that we do have, is making sure that any information is available on our website. Is trying to make sure that people go to the website and check that. The other way is often lawyers will make an inquiry with our office to ask when a property is being sold, if the property is regulated or not. We would love to get more lawyers out there doing that, but a lot use title insurance, rightly or wrongly. I think Grant will have lots of to say about that, and assume that that covers them in case there's any issues with flooding in the future. Short answer, that is, it doesn't. But again, getting those messages out, the communication, part of our strategic plan that identified getting out and having that education and outreach is such a huge part of what we do. So. Anything else to add, Jenna?
Anything else from board members? Okay, I think Jenna, you have a new theme song for your department from the Beatles, Along the Winding Road, so. Fair to ask Christine to include royalty payments for your department. So thanks, Jenna, Aaron, and Tracy for that report. Recommendation. It's a very, it's very important step forward in this process. It's a long time coming, as Skylar mentioned, or alluded to, but we're getting there step by step. So it's a good sign of progress forward, and we look forward to more good news on that front in the future. So recommendation that we receive Board of Directors receive this report for information. Moved by Brian, seconder Scotty. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving along here to 8.6 project status updates. Everything's laid out there in the agenda. Any questions on this report? Brian, go ahead.
Quick question of it's not on there anymore. The hydro generation. Has that been fully ratified? That's a crossover to regular fire.
Yeah, look to, we have made progress. So you want to add to where we're at?
Sure, if I may, Mr. Chair, respond to that. The equipment for automatic voltage regulation has been delivered. It's partially installed, but not yet fully installed. Once we are able to get that in and make sure that our systems are protected by the fluctuating voltages, then we'll be able to proceed with the hydrant plant running again. The subsequent work would be to get that back in production.
Is there a timeline for that sort of?
Yes, it was scheduled and had to be rescheduled. The installation of the or the completion of the installation was scheduled and then had to be rescheduled to work with staff availability for it requires power to be out for the building for a day for that to happen. It's coming up at the middle of September, I believe, yeah.
So I guess if I could just request that that be added back on there, just so we don't till we get that sorted.
Yeah, yep, so noted, Brian, thank you. Anything else on this report from anyone? See any more questions? Recommendation that the Board of Directors receive this report of information, please. Sandy, George, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. 8.7, Thames River Current August edition is online, and encourage all of our staff, board members, and the public to read the good news in this month's edition. Summer's fleeting by quickly, so feel free to enjoy the articles in there. So moving on to section 9, reports, committee updates. 9.1, Finance and Audit Committee meeting, the June 24th meeting. Sandy, did you have anything as the chair of that committee?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing that we were worried about at the meeting. Believe it or not, we would have been affected by the Americans' big beautiful bill. At least its original draft had a penalty to us and other non-American investment holders that we would have had to pay additional money. And fortunately, the Americans understood that, pulled that part of the bill. We actually dodged a bullet because it could have had a negative impact on our reserves and our holdings that we have in our reserves that we invest. So that was after that meeting, but I wanted to alert the board that happened, and it was a positive news that we got out of that. So no other real updates for the board on this, but happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Sandy. Christine, anything further to add? No? Okay, I don't have a theme song for that news, other than just to say a big sigh of relief, so that's good. Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, recommendation that the Board of Directors receive the report information, please. Skylar, Brian, all those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Hearing committee, will have a meeting following this board meeting to approve minutes from the last meeting. So we'll move on to item 10, notices of motion for next meeting. We didn't receive anything prior to start of this meeting, but I'll ask the members, does anyone have a motion to bring to the floor for a future meeting? Seeing none, okay. Item 11, chair's comments. Good to see everybody again. Again, I was not able to attend the June meeting, so I must thank Mark, our vice chair, for filling in at next to last minute there. Appreciate it, Mark. Thank you. And I guess overall comments, I'll just kind of plug into Tracy mentioned before about the strat plan. The comment from that discussion was Staff were surprised we got as much done in a day. And I'll kind of extend that, and I'll say I'm pleasantly surprised that our staff have gotten as much done in the summer. We've covered a lot of ground here today, important ground, budgets, strategic plan, I guess budget. 2 years ago, the news today is much better than it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we were very concerned about an impending deficit in the budget. We managed to get that worked out through 23, and last year and this year, the picture's improving, where it's more manageable. There's still challenges, as Christine pointed out, with reserves and capital spending, but again, we're getting there. We're making progress, and it's positive news. Again, strat plan, positive news there, making progress on the mapping. Doing all that, and we're still doing our day-to-day work of processing applications in Jenna's department and Joe's department. Summer activities with the day use facilities we're doing very well with that. Consulting with member municipalities on the aforementioned budget, strat plan, and the mapping, and working with our local stakeholders. And then on top of all that, dealing with the different emergencies that have come up out in the field as the summers progress. So I want to commend our staff and Tracy's leadership, not only the staff in this room, but the staff and the rest of the organization for just doing a great job, and much appreciated. And with that, I'll turn the chair over to the members for any questions or comments they might have. Don't see anything, so Tracy, go ahead, please.
Oh, thank you for that, Ian. Yeah, it has been a busy summer. It's gone by, and lots of things have been progressing, and that's what we'd like to see, some progress. In the fall, more things being wrapped up. I just wanted to highlight that this Saturday we saw over 120 people come into a Friends and Family Day. Scott's work, the research he's been doing for the recovery of reptiles at risk. And I'm sure many of you saw the front page news in the London Free Press about the program. So really highlighting the work we do. And although it was 120 people who attended, there was many more to attend as well. We had 7 stations set up throughout the building, including biology, ecology, research methods, and then a station to view all the young turtles and snakes being produced. With the lab tour, community education center, and a station from our friends at Salt Haven Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. So interest by far outweighed our ability to accommodate everyone. But in doing so, we really recognize that this is a testament in the community for the environmental programs, and an opportunity for the Upper Thames to really showcase what we do and our dedication to the community and the environment and our species at risk. So really took that as a great way to engage with others. And jumping off of that, we've invited municipal partners to attend a lab tour tomorrow. It'll be a little bit smaller in scale, but certainly want to give people, especially with some of our partners who we work in the environmental side, from Perth County Resiliency Coordinator, head of planning, to even the mayor of Thames Center be attending. So a good cross section of municipal representatives. I know a number of city staff from the ecology department are attending, and they're thrilled to actually be able to see the turtles firsthand and get out of the office a bit to see the lab in action. So we did have a GM's call with Conservation Ontario yesterday afternoon. Lots of focus is being made on providing some materials to get out to the federal corporations that have their mandate letters, and really put on conservation authorities to do some of the federal programs on the ground. So that will be coming to them shortly, as we were reviewing some drafts and providing input yesterday. But yes, some conversations about AMO as well. I think we're happy to not be the target since maybe we have been in previous years. I know several of the general managers from the Ottawa area, CAs attended various sessions and even a discussion about planning processes that municipalities were speaking about. Hearing municipal input on how some of their process changes can be improved for efficiencies. And yes, the CAs were mentioned just to highlight that we too are trying to improve processes as well to get homes built faster. So I think there's some general acknowledgement that we're all in the same boat, might be on different waters, but we all have some improvements that we can make too. So with that, I hope everyone had a nice summer and we'll gear up for fall.
Okay, thanks, Tracy. Okay, brings us to our last item. We've covered all of our allotted business on our agenda, so I will call for adjournment at 11:47, please. Moved by Skylar, second by Brian, all those in favor? We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.